Hello, folks. Tom Britter again. We're continuing on in the book of Revelation. We've seen in chapter 12, basically, the enemy that is against Israel and all Christianity. And today we're going to look at more towards what's going to appear in the future. And remember, this is all not gloom and doom. God is still trying to get the attention of people to the very end, till the gospel is preached around the world. But men keep refusing to listen to the voice of God. This is what it's all about, is he's not given up. Look how many times in the Old Testament he destroyed people. He could have destroyed them all over again. But he's trying to speak to people to get them to see who he really is. Chapter 13, beginning at verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there were given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. He opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience of the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doth great wonders, so that he make fire come down from heaven on the earth, in the sight of all men, and deceiveth them, and dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their hand, their right hand, or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 603 and 6. Wow. Going back to verse 1. John is seeing that he stood up on the sand of the sea. Doesn't say where, but he saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Now, the word beast means something that's not normal, that we don't normally see a beast. And now he gives us a description, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Now here what we have is possibly what John is referring to in the Roman world. Up until a certain time, I think it was somewhere after AD, the Romans did not worship their own emperors. And there changed one emperor who came in and started having emperor worship. And it continued on for a period of time. And this, if you look at the beast, we really have one beast, and that is Satan and his demonic followers. And this is who our real war is waged against. And this is who God's enemy. So it's no wonder that we see what's happening here. The beast, or Satan, is using governments, emperors, a person, to do what he wants to do. So the beast rises up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, could possibly be leaders during this time period. And upon his horns, 10 crowns, and those could possibly be leaders too over this time period. And upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. Of course, this would be only natural, because if they're from the demonic realm, then guess what? They're against God. They're against the believer. So we have to take a look that this is probably based upon the Roman history and the evil leaders during that time period. But it also is probably leading towards today as well. Because I'm sure that there's evil behind men like from Russia, Korea, North Korea, and some of the other countries, because they really practice the occultic world in those countries. And verse 2, of course, blasphemy is saying things against God, saying negative things, pretending to be gods themselves, denying the power and holiness of the true God. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. We all know what a leopard looks like. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. Strange. and his mouth as a mouth of a lion. We know it says, and Paul says that the lion is like a roaring lion, roaming about to see whom he can devour. I don't remember what he said about the bear, but we know that they're a pretty mean critter. And the same with the leopard. And the dragon gave him power and his seat and great authority. We'll see what that is here in a few minutes. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. You know, there's a lot of deception going on in our world right now with some of those so-called prophet preachers, where name you claim it, some healers out there that are false healers. I don't have my list of all those guys, but they're out there. Right now, we have a bunch of wolves out there. Demonic wolves. Great authority. I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. See, we're just as bad as the Jews were back in Jesus' time period. Show me, and I'll believe it. Miracles. Well, there's miracles being performed today that are really not miracles, but they're from the demonic realm, who God has allowed to have certain powers, limited abilities over people. Basically, it's over our nervous system and interjecting thoughts within our minds. They don't have any real power. Oh, you know, they can make it look like they're bringing somebody back from the dead, or they can do levitations and things like that. But the only way they can bring somebody back to dead is from their own realm. And they're not really bringing them back. And what's this do? We'll see in verse 4 that if we like to see a magician or an illusionist, how do they do the things that they do? And we can't catch it if we're not paying attention. And even then, sometimes we can't catch it because they're good. We wonder at them. We are amazed at what they can do. And we tend to follow them. And that night may not be so good. Verse 4 said, and they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast. Worship. That means you're devoting your time, your energy, your expenses towards something, someone, or some materialistic object. And with the result of this saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Now you see the claims, even though he can't possibly do anything unless God allows him, he's making great boastful words to impress those who are believing. Verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Well, we're not told what those great things are. We already know what the blasphemies is. Bad-mouthing God. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So that's about I think they said, four years or a little more. You see, his time is limited. God doesn't allow evil to go on too long. Verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Wow. And to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. You know, you only let somebody have power and control over you if you allow it. And again, because they were fixated upon what they thought was miracles and power, they allowed them to be under the control. You have to watch out who's out there speaking words, whether it's biblical or unbiblical, whether they're using it in truth or they're using it to their own satisfaction. And verse 8, we got to watch this. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. Now you catch that word shall? It sounds like no one is oh boy, I can't think of the word. No one is resisting the temptation to worship him. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. This sounds like a statement that God would make, stating that it's already been done. And the rest of that verse says, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundations of the world. Right here we can see that this might be interpreted that some are predestined to hell, others are predestined for eternal salvation. I don't think we need to look at it that way because God gives us all a choice. It's up to us to choose him. But he already knows who's going to choose him and who chooses him not. Remember, this is John. And then we have this one sentence. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Wow. Do you hear or do you not hear? Do you understand or do you reject it? The choice is ours. You see, God has given again another chance for these people. If any man have an ear, let him hear. And now we get to go to where if you don't listen and you don't hear and understand, here's the consequences. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Now this sounds like the Old Testament thought, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, it's the judgment that they're going to receive for not listening. This is how those people are going to die. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. You see, there's saints who have already gone through some of this stuff. There's saints that have been sewed up in animal skin and thrown to the wild animals to be eaten alive. There's saints that have been burned on crosses, lighting up Nero's view. There's all kinds of things that some of the other saints have gone through. And this is a warning to us that if they can do it, why can't we? Patience. Just when you think you're giving out, you got to hang on because you never know what's going to happen. Patience. Without patience, we're not going to be able to please God or please Christ. Patience. From what I see out there in the road rage and everything else, there's not too many people have patience anymore. Good or bad. Patience. Not letting your circumstance or situation overcome your faith. That's what patience is. To the very end, do not doubt. Verse 11, and I behold another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. That's kind of a picture of how we get Jesus. But at the end we see, and he spoke as a dragon, which means he's not one of Christ's sheep. He's a dragon. He's another demonic creature. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Again, deceiving, because people want to be deceived. It's easier to believe a lie than it is the truth. Or a half a lie. We can be fooled. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. You remember, not Jeremiah, but with Elijah. Faced off against the 300 prophets of Baal. And those prophets tried to cry out and bring fire down upon the altar from sunup to sundown. And they couldn't do it because they were idols. And yet Elijah called out one time, and fire came from the heaven and licked up the sacrifice. One time. 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. That's because the beast was backing him up. Saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword, and do live. All through the Bible, images, idols, took away people from facing God, from facing Jesus. It can be money, power, wealth, pride. It could be sports, a boat, basketball, power. Anything that takes your focus off of God is an idol, let alone committing adultery. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image they just built, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. In other words, If you didn't worship the beast, your sentence was death. Are we going to be able to do that in the times that we may face? Are we going to renounce Jesus? Are we going to die with the blood of Christ over us? 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. When I researched this, I found something very interesting. A mark means that somebody owns you, or your loyalty that you pledged to somebody else, or security from someone against someone, or dependence on someone, or safety. Slaves were branded. Other nations had different types of things on their bodies that connected them with something, somebody or something. And this is probably where tattoos came in. And looking at the tattoos that I see on a lot of people, is that where they are bondage to? And of course, we've taken it a step farther to nose piercing, belly button piercing. It's all a symbol of who we are under. A mark. And if we don't have the mark on our right hand or on our foreheads, 17 says that no man might buy or sell save he that have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Did you hear that? No mark, no food, no selling, no livelihood. You might as well end up and die. Verse 18, here we see it again. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. 666. This is getting serious here. The wicked are getting more wicked and more judgment, and the righteous seem to be getting a little more punished, but it has to do with their steadfast faithfulness to Christ. I remember one time I went down to Roswell, New Mexico, and I went down on a C-130 with a bunch of other guys to participate in an exercise with the Navy and the Army. And at that time, I was on the B-1s, so we couldn't fly in them, so we had to fly down on a C-130. On the way down, it was fine, but on the way back, I didn't notice it until somebody brought it out to me. And this guy was not a religious guy. However, he said, "Tom, did you see that tail number of that airplane?" I said, "No." He says it's 666. He knew it, but he wasn't a Christian. And there's probably others out there that know this too. Well, that's a warning. Again, don't delay in making salvation with Jesus Christ, because you never know when your day is up, your time is up. And if you keep putting it off, it might cost you more than your life, but all of eternity. And remember, God doesn't want anybody to perish. He wants them to repent and come through Christ to Him. Allow His blood to cleanse you of your sins. Amen.